doing the 4-song meditation helps us to become more conscious of the things that we have neglected or avoided looking at inside. When we do the 4-song meditation, we are engaging an emotional imprint. As we see what's in there, we start to understand the impact that it has on our lives. And you may already be coming to this knowing the impact, but not knowing what to do about it, not knowing how to interact with the emotional impacts that are happening on your life that we seem to have no control over. So that emotional imprint causes a pattern, and it causes a pattern of behavior that we watch ourselves play out day after day. In an effort to deal with these patterns, often we join groups. When we're entering into a group situation, we're going to find people that will validate our emotional imprints, that will resonate with our emotional imprints, and then we can commiserate together about those emotional imprints. We can have some kind of resonant relationship. And if we're unconscious about that, we will then take that pattern and it will run itself in the group and become amplified by the group, because you've got 5, 10, 15, 100, 1,000 people in, or take it bigger nationally to different national movements and parties. People that join groups all have a shared experience imprinted in their emotional imprint. They have a shared pattern of behavior, and let me just call it what it is. It's a shared pattern of dysfunction. So we can learn to become a part of this group. It's like becoming a part of the flock, becoming a part of a group of sheep that we follow around and hold up signs and, yeah, we want this different, we want that different, we want change here. Being in groups like that can be another way to hide out from becoming intimate with that emotional imprint and the discomfort that that causes. So the group kind of fosters and enables that emotional imprint to run in our lives. We want to be very, very conscious that when we enter a group of how we can start to find validation for our suffering inside that group. And a validation that doesn't lead us to authenticity, but leads us to keep staying in the pattern. I'm not invalidating groups altogether. I'm saying when you're involved in a group, you got to be careful that you don't get stuck in and feed the patterns that are in you, because those patterns that are in you are in the people in the group, and that's why the group forms. So we want to be aware of that and be aware of when the group is no longer serving us and extirpate ourselves from the group. And it can be painful. That's a part of dismantling that emotional imprint, and the dismantling of it and the integration of it brings us the aliveness that is our right to have, to function in our life, in the present moment, in the now, instead of being a piece of us that's stuck in the past, that's stuck in pain, that's stuck in unintegrated discomfort. It's stuck somewhere in fear, anger, and grief, and some salad of those three feelings. There's parts of us here, there, that are stuck in the past, running these patterns of fear, anger, and grief. And the group amplifies that, and the group justifies that. Mob mentality comes to mind as a very extreme example of how these patterns come together in a group and amplify each other. And now, instead of going within to feel that discomfort and integrate that discomfort, we come together, amplify the pattern, and act it out into the world in some way, usually in some kind of harmful way. If it's not physical aggression, it's going to be mental aggression, storytelling. Yeah, this sucks and it should be different, and I don't like the way the world is, and we'll be righteous and we'll be justified in our points of view because all these other people are agreeing with us. All the same people that have the same dysfunction that we have. This is super important. If you are doing activist work, you don't take your imprint and act it out and punish the world for it, because you're not able to be an effective agent operating through your dysfunction into the world. You want to integrate your dysfunction. You want to take that dysfunction and the gifts that it's trying to give you to become a more balanced, sovereign, self-authoritative being that can say yes when you mean yes and no when you mean no, and be clear about what you're intending to communicate to others, instead of communicating out of a group emotional amplified reaction that often turns into aggression and hate. Because all of the poor me, the victim, the stuff that lives inside of all of us, the things we wish we could say but we hold back and don't, those come out when they're amplified in that group mentality. And then after, I've been in a group like that, and afterwards we're like, oh my God, where'd all that come from? I know I was out of control. I lost my mind. And you literally lose your mind because the emotional imprint takes over. You get hijacked. If you want to be the most effective activist or spokesperson or champion of a cause you can be, you want to come at it from an integrated, balanced, powerful perspective, not a forceful, exaggerated, infantile, righteous, or whining perspective. One of my favorite activists who has done an immense amount of emotional integration and is a great demonstration of this is Joanna Macy. Joanna Macy is able to go into circles of influence that are opposite of how she thinks that life should be, of her vision of the world, and can go in and find common ground with people that she very strongly disagrees with. But she has done enough work with her own enemy images, with her own dysfunctions inside, and come to peace inside enough to be able to enter spaces where she strongly disagrees with the points of view of those people, and yet goes in there with knowing that her job is not to make them wrong or to fight them. It's to find common ground. It's to bring connection into that space. And then out of that relationship, out of that connection, her influence can be asserted in a socially appropriate way that doesn't shut the other people down and say, well, I don't like you, you're different than me. Instead, it opens their hearts to say, wow, you have a different viewpoint than me, but I kind of like you. And since I like you, I'm going to listen to you. If you're trying to do some kind of activist work, if you're championing a cause, or if you're even just trying to deal with your close relationships in your family, if you don't deal with your emotional imprints, you will be imposing those on other people. You will not be making the connections you want to make. And if you get into a group with that, it's going to be amplified, inflamed, and all of the emotional immaturity that's in us that hasn't been brought to maturity is going to come out, and it's going to be unpredictable, and it's probably going to be violent. And even if it's not violent, it's going to be very vomity, complainy, self-righteous, and is not going to create those connections that you are, and relationships that are vital for real eyes to open, for change to happen.